this. You're a cynical, hard-boiled private investigator in modern-day Munich.
Right, just a classic noir setup.
Exactly. You're sitting in this gray office on a heavy autumn afternoon. You're listening to the rain hit the glass, just waiting for, a typical extortion case or a cheating spouse to walk through the door.
A standard Tuesday.
Yeah. But what actually sits down across your desk isn't a normal criminal problem at all. It's a psychological horror story.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one that completely shatters the boundary between the digital world and physical reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about a cursed Facebook group, missing expatriates, and an impossible ghost pulled directly from a childhood spent in Saudi Arabia.
It is wild. So welcome to the deep dive. The source material we're unpacking today is this incredibly captivating Egyptian colloquial short story. It's titled Under the Owl's Claw by Bahaa Awaad.
Such a great title.
It really is. And our mission today is to follow this massive genre-bending narrative. We're going to untangle how it blurs the lines between, buried trauma and modern digital paranoia.
And discover what it ultimately has to say about guilt, love, and salvation.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the setup alone is just a masterclass in atmospheric dread.
It really is. I mean, the author establishes this baseline of modern low-level anxiety before a single supernatural element even shows up.
Yeah, you feel it immediately.
You do.
Yeah.
Our protagonist, this Egyptian private investigator, is already having one of those days where the world just feels slightly off axis. Like he misses his train by seconds.
The worst.
Right. He's running late. There is this oppressive gray weight to his entire reality in Munich.
Which, perfectly primes him for the client waiting in his office.
Oh, the terrified Egyptian expat.
Exactly. Who brings a case that sounds, on its face, completely absurd. I mean, this client claims a private Facebook group called Under the Owl's Claw is literally kidnapping people.
Just snatching them up.
Yeah. Specifically, it's monitoring Egyptians living in Germany and demanding they maintain this vague, undefined balance in their lives.
Let's look at the mechanics of this group for a second, because they are deeply unsettling. It's not just a standard message board.
Not at all.
If you are accepted into this group, you are constantly monitored by the admin, like 24/7.
Wow.
And if you slip up, if you deviate from whatever this entity considers balance, you're punished. The members who fail are imprisoned in these mysterious cell-like rooms.
And the truly chilling part, I think, is that their captivity is live-streamed to the rest of the group.
Yes, it's horrifying.
They are forced to sit on camera and confess to their moral or cultural failings. And the examples the author gives are so mundane, which, I don't know, somehow makes it scarier.
Right, because they aren't cartoon villains.
Exactly. We aren't talking about murderers here. We're talking about, a father who is overly controlling of his German-born daughter. Or a local shop owner who is dodging taxes.
Just ordinary flaws.
Yeah, and they are trapped in these rooms, begging the audience in the comments section for forgiveness so they can be released. It's basically a digital panopticon.
That is the perfect term for it. For those unfamiliar with the panopticon, it's this architectural concept of a circular prison.
Right, with the guard tower in the middle.
Exactly. The inmates can't see into the tower, so they never know exactly when they're being watched.
So they just act like they're always being watched.
Bingo. As a result, they end up policing themselves out of pure paranoia. The story takes that 18th century prison concept and just maps it right onto social media.
Which is so relevant because we already feel watched by algorithms, don't we?
Oh, constantly.
We curate our lives online out of this deep fear of judgment or, cancellation. This story just takes that modern anxiety and makes it literal and physical and highly punitive.
It completely weaponizes our voyeurism, too. Because the audience in the comment section is entirely complicit. They're just watching their peers beg.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing. Our PI looks at all this. He watches the client's phone glitching out. He sees the live-streamed prisoners, and his reaction is incredibly dismissive.
So dismissive.
He essentially just says, sure, this is a sophisticated cyber extortion ring. I'll track him down for a couple €1,000.
2,000 euros to fight a demon. What a bargain.
Right. I really have to push back on his mindset here. I mean, is the PI just dangerously arrogant, treating this like a standard kidnapping case? Or is the client just naive for believing a Facebook group has magical powers?
Well, I'd say it's less about arrogance and a lot more about survival.
How so?
His entire worldview is built on cynicism and rigid logic. That's his armor. If he admits, even for a split second, that this might actually be supernatural, the whole foundation of his reality just crumbles.
That makes sense.
To really understand his mindset, we actually have to look at this tiny detail in his office. There's a plaque on the wall, hung there by the agency's founder right after World War II.
Oh, right.
It simply asks, how did we allow this to happen?
The client actually stops and stares at it when they first meet. It's very obviously referencing the rise of fascism and the atrocities of the Nazi regime.
Yes, and that plaque is doing way more than just establishing the Munich setting. It's practically screening the thesis of the whole story.
How did we allow this to happen?
Right. How do humans allow insidious, destructive forces to take control right under their noses?
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's fascism sweeping across a nation in the 1930s, or like an algorithm dictating our behavior today, or even unresolved trauma just taking over a human mind.
And the PI thinks he's immune to that creep of control just because he's a logical, cynical detective.
But he is painfully mistaken.
Painfully is definitely the right word, because when the physical trail goes completely cold, the psychological horror just takes over.
It really ramps up.
So the PI tracks down the real-world identities of the live-streamed victims. He visits 4 different cities across Germany, and he just hits a total brick wall.
Every single time.
Supposedly, every one of these established victims left sudden messages saying they moved back to Egypt indefinitely, like no contact, no forwarding address, nothing.
Which, I mean, is a statistical impossibility.
Right.
People with established businesses and families in Germany don't just simultaneously abandon everything to return to Egypt on a whim. The physical world is already starting to bend here.
So when the real-world logic fails, he has to follow the emotional trail. He heads to a 5th city, Frankfurt, to investigate the man who was live screaming about being too controlling.
The father.
Yes. The PI goes to visit the man's daughter at her school, and her reaction is so chilling, she's completely apathetic.
Just dead inside.
Yeah, she essentially tells the PI, he thinks he's still in Cairo, not Frankfurt, good riddance. The PI even shows her the live stream of her dad in the cell, begging, and she just shrugs it off.
The family ties are completely severed. It really highlights how the owl doesn't just isolate you physically.
It erases you.
Exactly. It erases your emotional footprint. It isolates you from the very people who should care that you are gone.
And it is right after this deeply unsettling interview that the PI's logical reality finally shatters completely.
Oh, this scene is incredible.
He walks out to his car, and his phone buzzes with a Facebook Messenger notification. It's directly from the admin of the group.
Oh.
It says, in German, Sie befinden sich jetzt unter den Klau der Eule. You are now under the owl's claw.
The breach. That's the exact moment the digital threat crosses over into his physical space.
And what happens next is just a massive narrative shift. He's sitting there in his car, and he looks across the street. And standing on the sidewalk in modern-day Frankfurt is an 11-year-old boy.
But this isn't just a random child.
No. It is a boy from the PI's own past, from over 30 years ago when his family lived in Saudi Arabia.
This is a memory the PI has spent a lifetime actively suppressing. When he was a child, he used to walk home from school holding hands with this 8-year-old Egyptian girl who lived nearby.
Right.
It was just a pure, innocent childhood friendship. But then one day, this older boy, the one who is currently standing across the street in Frankfurt, intercepted them.
And he was awful.
He was a monster. He unleashed a torrent of just vile, vicious verbal abuse at the little girl.
Yeah, the source material actually makes a point of highlighting how horrific and sexually explicit the abuse was.
Yeah.
It completely shattered this 8-year-old girl's innocence.
He's heartbreaking.
She was deeply traumatized, she stopped going to school entirely, and the PI's parents ended up forbidding him from seeing her again. He felt entirely responsible and just utterly powerless.
And now, 30 years later, this boy hasn't aged a single day.
Not a day.
He is standing in Germany, repeating those exact same vile words. The past is no longer just haunting him. It is physically manifesting to taunt him. The algorithm of the owl found his deepest vulnerability.
And the PI's reaction is explosive. He pops his trunk, grabs a heavy metal tire iron, and just chases this phantom child through the streets in broad daylight.
With intent to kill.
He fully intends to crush his skull. He swings at the kid, misses, gets surrounded by concerned bystanders, pulls his licensed firearm on the crowd, and gets arrested.
Yeah, goes bad fast.
Okay, let's pause here. Because our cool, collected noir detective just snapped and tried to murder a child hallucination in broad daylight. Isn't that a massive, sudden overreaction? Like, he went from 0 to 100 in a second.
It definitely looks like an overreaction on paper, sure. But we have to look at what this entity actually is and what cynicism really means for this character.
Okay, lay it on me.
The owl doesn't just attack you with like a generic monster with fangs. It weaponizes your deepest unresolved guilt. The PI's failure to protect that little girl was the foundational trauma of his entire life.
Because it was the first time he realized he couldn't fix things.
Exactly. It was the exact moment he realized the world was cruel and he was completely powerless. That trauma is the single crack in his cynical armor.
So you're saying his logical detective brain basically short-circuited because he was suddenly fighting an emotional virus, not a physical suspect.
Right.
You cannot fight a 30-year-old memory of powerlessness with a tire iron.
Precisely. The force of his psychological suppression matched the violence of the eruption. His cynicism was essentially a dam holding back all that guilt.
Yeah.
The owl just placed a charge on the dam and blew it wide open.
I want you to pause and think about your own life for a second. How many of you have a memory tucked away in a dark corner of your mind?
We all have one.
Something that still makes your blood boil or your stomach drop when it unexpectedly surfaces. What if a digital algorithm or a supernatural entity knew exactly how to manifest that specific memory right in front of you on a random Tuesday?
It is a terrifying level of vulnerability, and it sends the detective into a complete downward spiral.
It really does. The agency's high-powered lawyer actually manages to bail him out on a technicality because since the boy vanished, there's technically no victim.
Right, lucky for him.
But the PI knows his grip on reality is totally slipping. He retreats to his apartment, locks the doors, and just turns to heavy substance abuse. Cocaine and scotch trying to numb his brain.
But retreating behind the drugs just lowers his psychic defenses even further.
Yeah, it backfires completely.
The dam is burst. He starts remembering other supernatural encounters he had aggressively suppressed throughout his life, like a vision of his dead uncle at an airport in Amman when he was a teenager.
Or that terrifying, smiling shadow entity he saw in a rural Egyptian house years ago.
He is drowning in the inexplicable at this point.
And while he's drowning, the owl delivers an ultimatum. A message offering him 3 choices to escape the claw.
A classic villain move.
Always 3 choices. Option 1, return to Egypt and pay off his old metaphorical debts. Option 2, commit suicide. Or option 3, recruit a new member into the group, effectively passing the curse on to someone else.
We are looking at a classic Faustian bargain here. It's a contract where the fine print costs you your soul. It's a trap perfectly designed to test human morality under extreme duress.
But the PI doesn't just pick one. I mean, he's still a detective. He chooses a hidden option 4.
I love this part.
He contacts a Dutch hacker he knows. Together, they send a fake SMS phishing link to the admin's account. The admin clicks it, and they instantly rip an IP address and a phone number.
Old school cyber sleuthing.
And the twist here is just incredible. The PI checks the phone number against his own contacts. The admin of the terrifying supernatural group is his own client.
The man who hired him at the very beginning of the story.
It was wild.
It's a brilliant subversion. But the thing is, exposing the client doesn't actually solve the PI's problem.
Why not?
Because the client isn't the one enforcing the curse. He is just another victim caught in the web.
So the PI drives straight to the client's car dealership, drags him out to the parking lot, and shoves a gun into his ribs.
Naturally.
And the client completely breaks down and confesses everything. He didn't create the group. He's a slave to it. During the pandemic, his wife contracted a severe case of COVID-19 and was dying.
Desperate times.
Totally desperate. The client was introduced to someone who dealt in the supernatural. He signed a demonic pact involving these strange flowers to cure his wife.
And the wife miraculously recovered. But supernatural debts always come due.
The client is now forced by the entity to recruit others, to maintain the Facebook group, to trap people. The entity specifically ordered the client to hire RPI, dragging him into the fold.
It is essentially a supernatural demonic pyramid scheme.
That is exactly what it is. You recruit new souls under you to pay off your own debt to the entity at the top.
Right.
But let's look at the targeting for a second. Why go after the cynical drug-using PI? Why not target someone innocent and pure?
Well, that brings us to the core theme of transactional morality. Think about the client's motivation here. He thought he was doing something noble.
Saving his wife.
Right, saving the woman he loved from a deadly virus. But to achieve that, he willingly condemned complete strangers to pay for his miracle.
He outsourced his suffering.
Exactly, and the entity feeds on that kind of moral compromise.
Whereas the PI, for all of his massive flaws, his drug use, his cynicism, his violence, he looks at the 3 choices he was given, and he flat out refuses to recruit someone else.
It's a huge moment.
He tells the client, "I will not tie anyone else to this wheel of hell."
The irony is profound. The quote-unquote corrupt private investigator actually has a much stronger, much more rigid moral backbone than the good husband who acted out of love.
Wow, yeah. The PI refuses to become part of the pyramid scheme.
You won't compromise.
The client tries to justify it too. He pleads, "My wife changed me. She made me a better person. Love made me do this." And the PI just scoffs at him.
Because he views love as a pathetic, naive illusion that just makes people weak and selfish.
Exactly. So he forces the client to give up the physical address of the entity pulling the strings, and he leaves to end things on his own terms.
He drives to a post office bank, which is the address the client provided. He walks in, fully armed, expecting a physical showdown.
Ready for a gunfight.
But behind the counter, staring back at him, is the smiling shadow entity from his childhood in rural Egypt.
The absolute embodiment of the void. And the PI realizes instantly that a gun is useless here. You can't out-detective the supernatural. You can't shoot a shadow.
So he turns around and walks away. He goes back to his apartment, and he chooses option 2.
He decides to kill himself.
It is a dark, incredibly heavy turn. He mixes a lethal cocktail of fentanyl, cocaine, and scotch.
And as his consciousness is fading, his internal monologue becomes deeply philosophical. He mocks the client's belief in love, reflecting on how absurd life and death truly are.
The story actually uses a real-world ideological divide here, purely as a lens into the PI's despair.
Right, it touches on the pandemic ideologies. He thinks about the groups who believe that viruses were meant to purify the human race by only killing the weak.
The author explores that grim worldview through the PI's fading mind. Obviously, it's a chilling ideology, but it serves to highlight his hopelessness.
And the PI notes the dark irony of it all. Those people, wrapped in their arrogance, rarely seem to suffer the consequences. Instead, it was the pure, kind-hearted people, like the client's wife, who were struck down and suffered.
Which just fuels his cynicism.
He looks at a world where the cruel survive and the kind die, and he thinks, how easy is death? What a simple way out. But, let's push on that for a second. When he takes those drugs, he thinks he's being a tough, cynical noir hero, taking the only logical way out.
Right.
But isn't he just giving the monster exactly what it wants? He's surrendering, isn't he?
It certainly looks like surrender.
Yeah.
But we have to remember what his cynicism actually is. It's a shield. He's not surrendering to the monster. He's retreating behind his shield.
It just happens that his shield is lethal.
Exactly. In the face of true cosmic horror, his cynicism offers him no real anchor. The client, for all his moral failings, had an anchor. His love for his wife. The PI has absolutely nothing to hold on to, so he folds.
But he doesn't die.
Nope.
Miraculously, he wakes up in a hospital bed. A nurse is standing over him, completely baffled. She tells him that with the sheer amount of painkillers, cocaine, and alcohol in his system, it defies all medical logic that he is alive.
It's a chemical impossibility.
Yet he survived.
And in that moment of impossible survival, the PI experiences a profound, fundamental shift. He actually asks the nurse for a pen and paper.
He writes down his final revelation before it slips away. He realizes that as he was dying, hovering on the edge of the void, the thing that became clear to him wasn't the darkness or his own cynicism.
It was the very thing he had mocked.
He writes that love, which he always dismissed as a naive illusion, is actually a tangible, powerful force. And conversely, death is fundamentally weak.
His final written words are a repetition.
How weak is death? How weak is death? How weak is death?
It is a complete inversion of his entire worldview. The owl's claw didn't crush him. It cracked his cynicism wide open so he could finally see the truth.
The walls he built to protect himself were actually his prison.
Exactly.
What an incredible arc. I mean, we started with a gritty detective taking a mundane extortion case, and we untangled a narrative about modern digital paranoia, repressed trauma, and the sheer resilience of the human spirit.
It really serves as a powerful reminder that the things we try to bury, our guilt, our grief, our failures, they never truly vanish.
They just wait.
They wait in the dark, gathering strength, until something forces us to face them.
So think about it. When your own world feels out of balance, when the pressure is really on, what anchors you? Is it a cynical defense mechanism, like a wall you've built to keep the world out? Or is it a genuine connection to others?
Because as our detective learned the hard way, walls can always be breached.
And sometimes they really need to be. Which leads me to one final, provocative thought for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends.
Let's hear it.
If our unresolved traumas can be weaponized against us, exactly like the PIs were, could the very act of being forced to confront them actually be the balance the owl demands?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. What if the entity wasn't trying to destroy the detective at all? What if it was using extreme, terrifying measures to finally wake him up from a cynical, half-lived life? Maybe the monster wasn't a monster at all. Maybe it was just a very harsh teacher.